Okay, I think most of the participants has answered the questions here. Hence, I can continue. Okay. Thank you for your answer on the polling. I have closed the polling and I can see you can see the result on your screen. And I'm very keen to know you have interest in answered various questions here areas. Hence, I can continue. Okay, so we will be waiting for another. Dato is already here, so I might need to. Okay. Yep. Okay. So without further action, I would like to open the session for today's webinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for all the participants who are keen to join the first CIMA Islamic Finance webinar series, Synergizing Islamic Finance and Halal Industry to boost Indonesia's Islamic economy. As you may aware that today we have some prominent speakers from their the area they are expert in. And the objective of having this webinar is to get to know more about the halal industry and Islamic finance industry, specifically in Indonesia, and how we can synergize both of them to really boost the economy, especially the Islamic economy. With us, we have Datuk Muhammad Daud Bakar, a prominent speaker and also a global Islamic scholar and founder of Amani Group. Thank you, Datuk, for attending the session. And also we have Pak Afdal Aliasar. Pak Afdal Aliasar currently is a director of Islamic economy and halal industry with KNEKS. If some of you may be not aware about KNEKS, KNEKS is the Indonesia National Committee of Islamic Economy and Finance. Whereas this is like the government agency, if I'm not mistaken, Pak Afdal, who are managing the Islamic economy and finance for Indonesia.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Pak Afdal. And also should be with us in a couple of minutes because apologize, he just sent his apology to maybe coming a bit late. One of the CFO, Pak Ilaudin Sopian, FCMA, CGMA. So he is the Chief Financial Officer from Paragon Technologies and Innovation. It's a company who also have the brand of Wardah. So without further action, I would like to start the session by asking the first question that maybe pop up in everyone's mind when they coming and joining the session. How halal and Islamic finance should synergize, and why we should work on this all together? Maybe I can start with Datuk first.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good afternoon. Thank you, Bapak Dewi. Thank you, Bapak Afdal, and all the viewers and participants. It gives me great pleasure to be invited to speak on this forum and platform to share my perspective on the topic, which is not really talk about in many conferences. And this is one of the few, forum that we tend to combine and infuse the halal industry with Islamic finance with halal industry. And this is something that is something commendable for CIMA and KNEKS to work together and to start thinking seriously about bringing the element of halal in Islamic finance and Islamic finance in halal industry. Why should we talk about this topic? Because many reasons. First, on the top of the list, because Islamic finance asset has been, calculated to be around 1 trillion, 1.3 trillion, but conservatively 1 trillion US dollar. But halal industry, conservatively speaking, is around 2 trillion US dollar. So if you can combine the two together, it is not only about 3 trillion, but the snowball effect, the multiplying effect would be double and triple. It could be 5 trillion to 7 trillion by creating the two industries together. Number two, they are the twin, basically. They are the twin. We shouldn't be separating the twin from the parent, because halal is about complying to the Sharia, and finance is about complying to the Sharia principle. They come from the same parent. So why should we separate the two together? Because they need to work together. They are the twin at the end of the day. If not the twin, they are the sibling at the end of the day. The third, halal is always about real economy sector. Halal is always about real economy sector, the fashion, the food industry, the manufacturing, the industry, the pharmaceutical, even the lifestyle is a real industry, the food industry, the F&B. So Islamic finance, on the other hand, is always about real economy. So we have the real denominator between the two. The more we can combine the two, the better for both to benefit. So this is my introductory remarks why we should be talking about this topic more often in the future. Thank you, Bapak Dewi.
Okay, thank you, Dato' Bakar. Maybe before I continue with Afdal, again, I can inform all the participants here, all the attendees. If you have any question, you can start asking the question, and then you just need to click Q&A box down there on your screen, and you can type your question. Everything, maybe you can direct it to Daud Bakar, or to Pak Afdal, or maybe to Pak Ilauddin later on. Anyone, you can start to asking the question from now if you already have the questions. And then now I can forward the question to Pak Afdal, and I assume that you have something you want to share with all of us, Pak.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Dewi. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Pak Dwi for the invitations in these sessions. And to Pak Daud Bakar, Dato' Daud Bakar. Actually, I'm totally agree with what Dato' Daud mentioned about the synergizing between Islamic finance and halal industry. If we look at from the basic of the Maqasid of Sharia, both Islamic finance and also halal product, the purpose of these two actually have the same purpose, to be the maslahah for our ummah. So in this session, please, I want to share some slides about what the condition currently in Indonesia about the Islamic finance and halal industry, and how should we build a strong connection between the Islamic finance and halal industry. Next slide, please. Padri?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. If we look at the condition of the halal industry in Indonesia, as maybe everyone know, Indonesia is the country with the biggest Muslim population in the world. So the halal economy in Indonesia is very, very big. So if we look at from the brand perspective, we have Wardah, which is also the speaker for today from the Paragon Technology Innovations. And many brands currently provide halal product to Indonesia consumers. Many Indonesia, they have now moved to the new lifestyle, which is to consume the halal product. So the lifestyle is not only based on the regulation, but it's come up from the bottom of the needs from the people. So that's why governments of Indonesia trying to develop the halal industry. We support the development of halal industry strongly. If we look at the number of the product and also the bank, the Islamic financial institutions, and just recently we just launched our first what they call the e-money Sharia, which is the electronic money which comply with the Sharia aspects. This is the new things which very interesting in Indonesia. Okay, next slide, Padri. Okay, what is the problem actually? If we try to look at the snapshot from the Indonesia Islamic Financial Institution, the financings goes mostly to the consumption purpose. Only about 25 and 24% go to the working capital and investment. So it means our Islamic financial institutions in Indonesia, currently the connection between the halal industry still weak. We need to improve the connectivity. We need to build the ecosystems where the Islamic finance can finance the halal industry, and this ecosystem must become a very strong economy for Indonesia, because Indonesia as the biggest Muslim populations, very huge number of economic activities there. And then, we need to move how Islamic finance institution currently serve the economy. Next, we will look at next slide, please. Okay, sorry, back to the.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is a very interesting. As we know, Indonesia has a very huge number of the sukuk issuance. The number of sukuk issued is reach about 80 billion US dollar. It's a huge. But where the money goes? The money from the Islamic ecosystems buy sukuk, and then government use the money from sukuk to finance the project, infrastructure projects, many kind of projects, road, toll, bridge, university building, laboratory, and many of the project in Indonesia. This is good for our development, the country development. But the question, when the money when the money flow for the project financing, it still use the conventional ecosystem, conventional financial ecosystem. So that's why the money coming from the Islamic ecosystem and then by sukuk, but in terms of the disbursement of the money, still use the conventional. So that's a very big gap in this situation. Next slide. So we need to build strong connections, because we want Islamic finance and halal industry, they have a both purpose. This must be linked in the same ecosystem actually. So there is no question why we need Islamic finance to finance the halal industry, because both of them are in the same ecosystem. So Indonesia governments aware about this, and then we try to build the very good connect. between the Islamic finance and halal industry. Next. So what we did, Indonesia governments, first we launched our Islamic Finance Architecture Masterplan, we call it MAXI, in 2015. This is focused for the Islamic finance. And then January last year, Indonesia just established the committee, which we call it KNEKS, National Committee of Islamic Finance. And then also last year, we launched our master plan, Islamic Economy Master Plans. Why we launched the master plan for the Islamic economy? Because we know we cannot push the development of Islamic finance without taking care carefully, strongly the Islamic economy itself. So that's why we need the Islamic finance, Islamic economy master plan. It just launched in last year. And then last year also at the end of the 2019, we just complete our implementation plan. So in this move, not only Indonesia stakeholders, but also world stakeholders look at this as a very good move and very strong initiative from the governments. That's why if we look at the achievement that we have in last year, Indonesia to become the #1 in Global Muslim Travel Index from the Crescent rating, and the first one in the Global Islamic Finance Report from the Cambridge IFA, and also number 4 for Islamic Finance Development Report, and in the State of the Global Islamic Economy Report, we moved from the 10 to number 5. Next. We want to become the global hub of the Islamic economy because Indonesia, we have very huge populations, very huge economy, and that's why there is no doubt that we need to bring this global economy in Indonesia move very strongly. That's why early in this year, in the February, our government just issued the new decree to change the National Committee of Islamic Finance to become the National Committee of Islamic Economy and Finance. So the name of the committee now is KNEKS. Focus not only to develop the Islamic finance, but also Islamic economy. And there are 4 big sectors that we want to focus. The first is the halal product development. The second, Islamic finance development. And the third, social religious fund development, ZISWAF, Zakat, Wakaf. And the last one is Islamic business development. The good thing in this committee, the vice president of Indonesia, Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin, now become the chairman of this committee. We call it Ketua Harian in Indonesia. So the means of we want to have very strong leadership, very strong commitment to push the movement of Islamic economy in Indonesia. Next. But then what happened? In January, we have COVID-19, the pandemic. It's hit all the sectors in the economy, not only in Indonesia, but also around the world. So currently, the committee trying to adapt, trying to realign what we have, the MAXI and MAXI implementations. Maybe previously we are focusing to what we call the development, strong development, but now we also look at what we call the economic defense. In Indonesia, we call it ketahanan economy. So we need to prepare the infrastructures of our economy to be ready, especially with the digitalization in all the sectors. So we also encourage the winner sectors, and we facilitate the transitions of resources from loser sectors to the winner sectors. Because this is something that we need to do in very short of time because of this pandemic, restructuring Islamic finance facilities. Our bank and also the Islamic financial institutions, in this kind of situation, this is a very difficult time for them. So restructuring the Islamic finance is a very important thing. We need to have provision of business stimulus, and we need to have a regulated funding support for the halal industry research and Islamic business research. Without regulated funding, the research will become a very scattered research. So we need to have a very strong support from governments to issue the regulation to support the research related to the Islamic finance and halal industry. And also we need to develop what we call it biodefense through the halal and biotechnology and halal pharmaceutically. And then we need to be ready with the new protocol, with the health protocol to recover our logistics. I think that's the conditions that we are facing now. And next slide. Because of Indonesia, Allah blessed Indonesia with very, very rich natural resources, creativity and ability to innovate. We have extraordinary biological resources in all the area in Indonesia. In Indonesia also the number of productive populations is a large population in Indonesia. So we need to bring all the resources to change, to make a better economy with a better society. In our notes, I want to mention the change requires what we call that responsible leaderships, which in every step and thought always keep the Maqasid al-Sharia integrated to maintain a deen, the intellectual life, prosperity, and the wealth. So, and also we need to do more or act more and think strategically. Insya Allah, with these conditions, the linkage and between Islamic finance and economy, we can bring it together, and also we want to become the better society with the better economy in Indonesia. Yeah, I think that's my sharing, Pak Dwi. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Pak Afdal. It's a very comprehensive explanation about also the engagement of the government, how we all need to really adapt with the current situation, because I believe this has been built before the pandemic, and now KNEKS and also all the stakeholders really needs to reform the strategy to really still meet the target of the country.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, I would like to welcome Pak Ilauddin Sopyan. Assalamualaikum, Pak Ilauddin. Welcome to the session.
Sorry for being late.
Understood, Pak. I think at this point, many companies doing the back-to-back meeting with the Zoom meeting and everything, and I believe actually I really appreciate that you can spare your time to join this webinar. So maybe now I would like to ask the question to you, Pak Ila, as you also are the CFO who are doing. Your company is having one of the, like what Pak Afdal have shared earlier, Wardah Cosmetic, whereas it's considered as a top cosmetics product, whereas like you follow the halal as a halal product. So I would like to know from your perspective, because you are one of the key players. Wardah is also one of the key market for Indonesia.
Yeah. So I think first of all, again, apologize for being late. exactly as explained by Pak Dwi. Yeah. So working from home not meaning that you have more break, but it's less break basically. So yeah, so interesting question. So basically, the linkage between halal industry and the Islamic finance is very close. We need to build the linkage because we see from the business perspective, halal industry as an opportunity, as as a growth in the source of growth for the company. If you observe a lot of companies now globally, even if you look at the global player like P&G or Unilever or L'Oreal, they all try to tap in the Muslim segment. So they really have a special task force to really research and to really tap into this market because we've seen that number one is the population of the Muslims growing up, growing up very rapidly in the world, in the U.S., in the Europe, and even in the big Muslim countries like Indonesia, Pakistan, India, and all that. So the opportunity is very big. That's number one. Number two, basically the consumption. I know that this all assumption is before pandemic, but I think some of these assumptions will still be the same even after pandemic. So the spending and then the even in the beauty and personal care category, for example, the tendency of grooming is growing up and all that. So that's provide the market opportunity for the industry, for the business to be capitalized. Yeah. On the other hand, I think Islamic economics, if you want to really have a solid halal industry landscape, then Islamic economic is basically, or Islamic finance, sorry, Islamic finance is basically the enabler, the one who really like a glue to this all industry, ranging from if I look at the role of Islamic finance in the business, I always look at it from three different level, from the level of from the strategic level, from the operational level, and from the financial operation level. So from the strategy, for example, then Islamic finance will provide more accessibility and more options for the business in terms of which business portfolio that you would like to enter, in which market, right? In which segment and how. So that's number one in the level of strategic decision in terms of the portfolio, the market you want to enter, and all that. Secondly, from the operational perspective, of course, it's about how can you operate your business in an efficient manner, in a cost-effective manner. So there you will have a supply chain kind of arrangement. You will have funding. You will have a relationship with your vendor. So this is how where the Islamic finance can play a role in the business. Thirdly, is about the financial operation itself of the business. So the treasury part of it, the liquidity part of it of the company. So it's really have a very close linkage between the Islamic finance and the halal industry, or the business that involved in the halal, that promoting halal products. To your question on challenge and opportunity, of course, I think the challenge is really in terms of the services, the speed, the quality, the technology. Honestly, I mean, it's a big job. It's a big challenge for the Islamic finance and the Islamic banking, for example, to really outpace the performance of the conventional counterpart. It's very important that Islamic finance or Islamic banking can really be par in terms of the performance with the conventional banking, for example, or the conventional financing, for example. So I think that's always been a challenge in the technology, the speed, the simplification of the process, and all that. That make the help the customers like us to have more easy access and more faster and efficient process when we need when we need to have a financing arrangement, for example. But the opportunity is very large. In terms of the opportunity is very large. As I said earlier, when I mentioned on how the Islamic finance can really help the business in promoting halal industry. As I mentioned, that is firstly is on the sales, for example. So how the Islamic finance can really help open up and unlock the growth opportunity through the microfinancing, for example. We know that largely our trading landscape in Indonesia or the country similar to us, which is largely dominated by general trade or traditional trade market. Yeah. How do we really help them, the trader, the toko owners, the store owners, the kedai owners, to really be able to have their working capital moving, so that they can really also have more access to purchase, to buy the products from the manufacturers or from the business. That's just one thing. I'm just mentioning one example, but there's so many examples that we can explore. In the area of supply chain, for example, supplier financing, for example, is one of the challenges nowadays. And how can we help our small suppliers to really survive, especially in this pandemic era, where there's a lot of facing a lot of challenges nowadays. I'm just citing that opportunity, but still there are more opportunities that I have. Digital payment, for example, is also one of the opportunity that maybe the Islamic finance can play more role in that area, because now with the pandemic, definitely people are moved to online, moving from offline to online store because of the mobility restriction. So the role of digital financing, the digital payment, and all that are very, very instrumental and very crucial, even more in this pandemic period or time. That's my view, Pak Dwi.
Okay, very interesting one, Pak. Again, like what you have shared earlier, at the moment there are so many players. Even not only they are not really coming from the halal. The halal products, everything like what you're sharing about PNG. They have like a various products, but they have a concern to really building up the halal product, not just in Indonesia, but I think it's like a global product. So maybe now I would like to ask Datuk Daud Bakar, because I understand that you come from a global scholars in a Sharia perspective. So I would like to know your opinion, Datuk. When it comes to like the involvement of Islamic Bank, you can refer it maybe in Malaysia, or maybe you have like a wider perspective. Is there any innovative solution so far that has been implemented to really supporting this like a halal industry, or maybe any suggestion that you think maybe would benefit we're talking about Indonesia, for example, like the Indonesia financial institution to really boost up their performance?
Okay, thank you, Pak Dewi. And very tough question, basically, because to be honest, we don't have any data on that. What are the reasons contributing to lukewarm attitude by Islamic financial institution towards halal industry, or the other way around? Why the companies are not keen to approach Islamic Bank? At the moment, to be fair with our discussion, we have to take a very balanced point of view. The problem could be coming from Islamic financial industry, or it could come from the companies themselves. And we have Bapak Aliuddin to share with us perhaps the view of the other CFO of many big companies around the globe. What are the challenges? What are the restrictions and the hindrances that stop them, or that make Islamic finance not attractive enough for them? Or worse, both parties are not talking to each other. I mean, this is something, the worst scenario, that both banking, Islamic banking and halal are not, do not love each other. They hate each other. So I'm just putting the three scenarios that we need to work on seriously to get the data, get the questionnaire and respond from the industry. Sometimes not because they don't like each other. Sometimes because they don't have the opportunity to know each other. Like, a boy and a girl, they like each other, but they don't know how to be close to each other. I mean, a very simple analogy. So in that case, there could be 3 or 4 measures that we can think together. Indonesia, of course, very strong on halal and Islamic finance, and we need to see a good example and leadership. And Indonesia could start off with this kind of leadership. First, there could be a matter of affirmative action where we make it compulsory. For example, good and bad, but just a matter of suggestion. Make it a kind of affirmative action. You have to take Islamic finance, otherwise we don't give you halal job, for example. This is very, very stringent and very affirmative decision. Number 2, persuasive. Let's say we encourage Islamic finance, the halal industry to come and talk to Islamic finance by giving them incentive, by giving them some recognition from the government. The government can give them tax incentive. If you take the first, let's say, 1 trillion rupiah on Islamic finance, or it could be more than that, we can give you some rebate for tax, for example. So this is persuasive, which is open-ended for the government, the Islamic financial institution to look into that matter. The third is about educational, and this is something that is open for everyone to educate both the Islamic finance industry and the halal industry to be equipped and be educated and make aware of the importance of the two systems. I would like to conclude my statement by putting very strong support to Bapak Ilayuddin just now, that Islamic finance should focus on something which is very close to the halal industry or the trade industry, which is the value chain financing. So when we come to the company, we look into their salaries payment. They need the cash payment, for example, to pay the consultant, the salaries. They need to buy the raw material. How could we put the letter of credit and so on? They need to securitize the receivable. They need to raise more capital, either debt or equity. They need to do so many things to buy the raw material, the technology from overseas. So how could we, Islamic finance, do the whole value chain? Because again, I could be wrong. I have seen in Oman, for example, the company like Wardah and KFC and whatnot, they don't like to deal with so many banks. When it comes to the banking instrument, they have one account for this one, the other account for that one. They prefer Islamic bank to be able to provide almost everything. The value chain financing, the supply financing. This could be the reason why they are not coming to Islamic finance, because we ourselves are not able to provide all the products that they need to support their businesses. And last but not least, I would say that again, my own experience, I could be wrong. I wish I'm wrong. The CFOs, not Bapak Ilayuddin, of course, the other CFOs, they are not familiar with, and they're not familiar. Number 2, they are not keen to start looking into new instrument other than the normal instrument they have been doing for the last 10, 20, 30 years. Thank you very much. This is my sharing.
Thank you, Dato'. I think this is also the discussion that has been coming in and out when it comes to the manufacturer or those who are halal industry player, whereas they are not really use the instrument of Islamic finance. So maybe I can address this question. I think this is also the question that being asked by the participant here, maybe to Pak Afdal. How we really encourage the manufacturer or the halal industry player to really make the use of the Islamic finance instruments. because there are some thoughts saying that IF products are more expensive. There are so many terms and conditions. Even the service that offered by this Islamic finance instrument less superior. What is your thought about that, Pak?
Okay. Yes, I think we need to improve the capability of our Islamic financial institutions currently. What Alauddin mentioned, that's right. Really, as an industrial player, they need to have a better service. They need to have a very good cash management. They need to have a strong treasury management to support the activities. So, from the government side, we push to issue what we call the Islamic digital money. So, now we have our e-money comply with the Sharia. The difference of the e-money with the other e-money is the e-money which comply with Sharia, they have an ecosystem. The floating money just keep in the between Islamic ecosystem, Islamic bank. So that's the first thing. So the electronic money can be used by the SME. They can use to buy something or to sell something. So the activity, the economy will be through the Islamic ecosystem. So the collaboration is the key in this kind of situations. We know many kind of Islamic institution in Indonesia, they're still struggling to invest to the technology. So that's why the shared facility or the collaborations between all the financial institutions to build what we call the digital Islamic economy ecosystem. This is something that we need to push to be ready in near future. Yeah.
Okay, interesting, Pak. Okay, so maybe now I would like to read some of the questions that has been raised by the participant here. So we have a question from Muhammad Iqbal. So he has a question. Since we are talking about the Islamic finance PMT or Islamic cooperatives, according to the speaker, how we as a museum community to be more careful to not take the wrong decision when it comes to the Islamic financing, that there could be individual who apply usually like Sharia guards. Please state the concrete characteristic. Maybe he is referring to the decision when it comes to the Islamic cooperative, like the instrument. So maybe Pak Afdal or maybe Datu would like to give some thoughts on this, Pak. But I'm not really getting the question of this.
Yeah, I think it's better to skip the question and ask the participant to repost and perhaps straight to the point so that we don't give the wrong answer.
Yeah.
Question or the other way around. I mean, my suggestion. Thanks.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, Pak. Agree to that. So I would like to go to the second question raised by Muhammad Bintang. This is the question to Pavda, but can also be shared by the other speakers. What is the indicator of development of Islamic finance if you are looking for Indonesia perspective that has been set by KNEKS for you, and maybe for the rest of the speaker also? Is it the improvement of Islamic banking asset also important, or is there anything else?
Okay. Yes, the number of assets is important. That's right. But that's not the only one or to measure the development of Islamic finance. We want to see how Islamic finance can provide the better service. So what we call the Islamic inclusion, for the Islamic finance inclusions, the rating of Islamic finance inclusion, if I know, OJK, the Indonesia Financial Service Authority, they conduct every year to look at the number, the rate of the inclusion for the Islamic finance. So we will use that kind of number to see the improved Islamic finance in Indonesia. But generally, we want to look at the new innovative product from the Islamic institutions, not only the number. but how their product used by the consumer. The digital wallet, digital money, either they use the Islamic bank or not, in their life and the transportations, buy some things in all the sectors of our economy. And we also want to see the measurement for the Islamic finance is the link with the productions. The issuance for the sukuk. Currently, the sukuk issuance still from many sukuk issued by Indonesian governments. So we encourage the private sectors to issue their sukuk to get the financing more from the Islamic capital market. So not only from the governments, but the private sector as well.
Okay, so maybe from that perspective, we're not talking about the KNEKS. I mean, what Afdal shared is from the KNEKS. But from your thing, do you think the improvement of Islamic banking asset is also one of the indicator, or what is, let's say we put 1 to 3, what is the indicator that you think from your perspective would be very I mean, can be put it as a highlight when it comes to development of Islamic finance in a global perspective?
Yeah, I think my perspective on the financial sectors or service, it is always about financial intermediation. We need financial intermediation to mobilize the fund more effectively in the society, from the surplus unit of the society to the deficit unit of the society, individual or corporate. So this is the whole idea of having banking, capital market, insurance, and all the fund that we have, including sukuk. So this is the main indicator. The more we can mobilize the fund, and the more we can distribute the fund to the public, to the individual and companies who need the money, this is the KPI basically. And in this case, let's say we have some of the Indonesian are not bankable. How to make them bankable? How to use technology so that we can also invite them to the whole system, where they can also be part of financial inclusion. I think Bapak Afzal mentioned about financial inclusion, which is very good. In fact, for me, the highest maqasid is about financial inclusion. You have to make everyone ready and able to be part of the financial activities in the country. How do we do it? It's up to our human intelligence and human ability to do that. Yes, we are compliant, but more importantly, we need to ensure that everyone has the space for them to be part. If they cannot be the banking customer because they don't have bank statement, so they have to have salaries, we have to create another platform for them to be part of the financial instrument. And this is not easy job. I mean, to create the financial inclusion and financial intermediary. But if you can do this, I think this is the great success of any financial instrument that include Islamic financial product as well.
Okay, thank you, Dato. So for Pak Ilaudin, since you are the CFO who are managing doing the finance control for your companies and everything, so from your perspective, what incentive or like sort of like a benefit you will expect from this Islamic finance industry that will move you to really use all the Islamic finance instrument or the products for your operational or anything? Is there anything that maybe, again, things that maybe trigger you to make all these Islamic finance instruments rather than the conventional one? What is the incentive that you think will be move the intention of the industries and you as a key player on this halal industry as well? You're still on mute, Pak. Sorry.
Sorry. Thank you, Pak Dwi. So I've mentioned earlier that the among the thing that the Islamic finance can really help the business is by really helping, firstly is identify what are the needs of the business, right? And then how can we efficiently and effectively help the business to move forward in their agenda. So as I've said that we always look business into three parts, into three pillars, right? on the strategic, on the strategic level, on the operational level, on the financial operation level, on a daily basis. So on the strategic, for example, how can the Islamic finance really help companies to really help them in terms of achieving their growth agenda, for example? You know, they want to grow in the rural area, for example. They want to grow the traditional market, for example. They want to promote the halal traveling, for example. They want to promote halal foods, for example. How can we support them in their growth agenda? It has to be innovative. It has to be, of course, cost effective, and it has to be efficient. Yeah, in terms of the process, simplification and debureaucratization are among the keywords in terms of trying to to attract people and then to go into Islamic finance facilities. Like I've said, and then in the operational level, for example, in the supply chain area, in the overheads, for example, what are the things that the Islamic finance can really help the vendors, for example? Many of our, to be honest, in our operation, for example, we would like to help the SMEs as our suppliers, right? So how can we ensure that they can survive, that they have strong financial in their companies? Because that's very important, because that will ensure the continuity of our business. Because if they are having problem, there is a disruption in their process, that will also have an impact to us, because then the supply of the goods, the supply of the raw materials will be disrupted. So how can we ensure the stability and the continuity of the business? And that's really one of the opportunities for the Islamic finance to be able to help. And of course, in the financial core area, in terms of says the opportunity there, again, the keywords are the efficiency, the quality of the services. So those are the things that really will attract or will make people switch from the conventional to Islamic finance and all that. So that's basically my view, Pak Dwi.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ila. Okay, so maybe this will be the last question for all the speakers, because we should end the session at 3:30 Indonesia time. So to wrap up all the share and the thoughts that we all discussed during the session, we're talking about the Islamic finance and halal industry, how we can really synergize this. So I believe each of you have your own benchmark. So when it comes to benchmarking, what is the benchmarking for you, for yourself, when it comes to measuring synergy, the measure of synergizing this Islamic finance and halal industry? What is the benchmark that has been set from each of you? Maybe we can start with Pak Afdal first, Pak.
Okay. Talking about the benchmark, actually, we want Muslim product, halal product in Indonesia. Now the lifestyle to consume the halal product in Indonesia is growing, but we want them also to consider not only the halal, but how they buy, how they control the financial as a consumer, also in the Islamic ecosystem. So the benchmark is how we can build a very strong ecosystem between all the Islamic economy sectors, including halal industry, Islamic finance, and others area. So it is, I think, the things that we want to build together. Yeah.
Thank you. How about you, Dato? Maybe you have like a last thought about this benchmarking for Islamic finance and halal industries.
Thank you. I think benchmarking is quite a big word. We are still in the early journey of of synergizing basically between Islamic finance and halal. It's good to have the dream, high dream, big dream, but I'm not that in the position to give any benchmark at the moment. If you look into Malaysian, for example, it's quite a long way to go. Look into trade financing using Islamic products, it's only up to 5 to 6% only compared to conventional. Whereas trade financing is the most Sharia compliant way. The goods are compliant. The financing is quite straightforward to Islamic, no complication, but still there's a gap in the market. So we have to know what went wrong in the past. So perhaps I'm not sure about the data in Indonesia. The more we have the data, the more we have the problem. I think I have the feeling, Bapak Dewi and my other colleagues, esteemed colleague, there's no issue and problem on the ground. The problem is how to connect the dot. This is my guess at the moment. Our duty is to find the data, of course, number one. Number two is try to connect all the dots which are not connected to one another. I think if we can do that, government, the foreign direct investment, the tax authority, the banking and the fund, the sukuk, and the industry, CFO and the CEO, the board of directors, and halal industry. I think if we can do that, the sooner the faster, I think we can start dreaming about the benchmark. This is my takeaway from this session. Thank you for the opportunity.
In the future years for this synergizing Islamic finance.
Yeah, I think it needs a support from the government. I think KNEKS is one of the good initiative, in my view, that will drive this agenda. And secondly, we just need to have a roadmap. What are we going to do next year, year after that, and what are the target April, so that we can reach to our destination at the end. So that's basically the roadmap. My keyword is the roadmap.
Okay. Thank you all the speakers for your sharing and thoughts during the session. I do apologize for the attendees if I cannot read all the questions, because I believe you have all the questions are really great, but due to the time constraint we have, we cannot answer them one by one, but you still can send them to me, to my email address, and we will do the best to get the answer from the respected speakers here, and then give you the answer by email. Again, before I close the session, I would like to say thank you again to Pak Afdal and to Pak Datuk Muhammad Daud Bakar, to Pak Ilaudin for your time and your this halal industry and Islamic finance. This is like a webinar series for Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA Indonesia. This is the first webinar series that we conducted, and in the future we'll be having another series in partnership also with KNEKS, another institution and organization. So hopefully we will keep updated all the participants here for our upcoming events. And then thank you for everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dato. Thank you, Pak Ilaudin.
Thank you, everyone. Selamat puasa, selamat Hari Raya.
Selamat